friends. I'm here with Dean Butler, and we're going to talk about his book, Prairie Man. And it is the 50th anniversary of Little House on the Prairie. But you've done a lot more than that, but I'm guessing it's all in this book, isn't it?
I've tried to cover the broad strokes of my life from my extreme youth to the present. So yeah, the whole snapshot of my life is there in the
Right.
book. Actually, that was, I think that the most significant work that I've done is Little House. I think, we're celebrating 50 years. Gidget came after Little House.
Oh, okay.
So I had done, before Little House, I had done a Judy Blume novel called Forever, which was her wonderful 1970s coming of age, first love story. And it was a very controversial book, banned in schools and libraries all over America for its frankness. And we did it. I did that with Stephanie Zimbalist years ago, and it was really a nice experience. And that led to Little House.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very wholesome show, very, very successful. 50 years, and here we are celebrating here in Hollywood, West Hollywood. What was really the biggest takeaway that you had from working on Little House on the Prairie? What really changed your life?
Being a part of something that has been so loved and so appreciated by people not only in our country but all over the world has been an incredible gift. Little House still, 50 years later, airs in 140 countries every day all over the world. It's an extraordinary piece of programming. And I think one of the things that really defines it, Dr. C, is that it wasn't cool. It was never cool. It was never edgy. It was never in fashion. It was always a little behind the curve of pop culture. Obviously, it's set in the past. And I think there was an enormous comfort that came out of that for people. It was a safe place to go and be with a family, be part of their stories, join in with their stories and their lives in this little town of Walnut Grove, Minnesota.
You know what? It's coming around again because people watch Hallmark movies all the time now. People are craving this because I think we've just been, our senses have been like overloaded and maybe we've been pushed too far, and I think it's snapping back again.
Well, I think it is, where Little House is concerned, I think there is this sense that yes, there can be chaos all around us, but you can come to this little corner of your viewing experience and feel safe, feel completely safe. And that is a major gift for people, particularly people with families and with young children we hear constantly, there's nothing else I can show them. Well, our era was the Waltons and Little House, and we really are at the center of this beautiful family television era. For all the turmoil that was going on in the United States in the late 60s, early 70s, and through the 70s into the 80s, Little House and the Waltons were this peaceful place where you could go and feel like you were okay.
Well, we do need peace. You watch the news and then you really need to like turn it back a little bit, so that you can go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
But tell me also about the new Gidget, because that was actually a big hit and you're well known for it.
So the new Gidget was started as a movie. It's several features, 2 different television series, multiple movies of the week. In its time, Gidget, these books and the movies were the most produced piece, or there was more popular entertainment, different popular entertainment spawned off the Gidget books by Frederick Kohner than virtually any other piece of contemporary literature at that time. So it's very special. It's all about the empowerment of a young woman, Gidget, girl midget, and I feel like this has been a theme in my life. So I was married to Gidget in the new Gidget, so I go from manly to moondoggy. And on Little House, I am the love interest of this empowered young woman of the 1800s. I played the love interest for the Katherine Danziger part in Forever, which was a defining story of a young woman coming of age in that period. And then later, I was Buffy's dad on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Not a good dad. It's sort of a dysfunctional dad. But my career has been connected to young women or women who are the protagonists in stories. I have been that love interest or a father figure for Buffy. So
Well,
it's been an interesting run.
Big market for that, and there should be. There absolutely should be. Speaking of your career, let's go and talk about Broadway, because not all Hollywood actors get to experience Broadway.
So I had prepared I've always loved to sing, and I write about that in the book. I started studying with a wonderful coach in Los Angeles named Nathan Lamb, and we reached a point where he said, you need to start auditioning. And so I started off going off a tour of Japan in West Side Story, where I played Tony in West Side Story. And then I came home, and 3 months later I went and sang for Stephen Sondheim, James Lapine, Paul Giamatti, and Joanna Merlin, who was their casting director for Into the Woods. I went in, sung for the two of them. They hired me 2 hours later, and I went to New York, and this was in the fall of 1988. I spent a year on Broadway. I did 320 performances of Into the Woods. I was Rapunzel's prince, so another man of an idealized character. I had great fun with that. There is no talent. There's no talent as a body of talent that like you find in a Broadway cast. It's just an incredible level of talent, and I had an absolute ball.
Well, I have a feeling I might already know the answer to this, but what do you prefer?
You know, I think I'm probably more naturally comfortable on the stage than I am in front of the camera. I think I'm maybe better on the stage than I am in front of the camera, but both are wonderful. I think of like when you are doing a Broadway play or any sort of play like this, you are playing in a sand, right? And you get to know every grain of sand. Doing a television series is a long run on the beach where you never touch any grain of sand more than once and it's gone and it's never the same again. Both are great, and I feel so lucky that I got a chance to do any of these pieces in my life.
Right. You know, you're a very compelling human as well as a character. I can see how people fell in love with you. The casting people just really took to you, and you got where you are. Fabulous book. This is going to be a great read, people. Prairie Man, and it does tell lots of personal stories and the path to stardom. And you started out in Northern California, and hey, I think Little House, you started, maybe when you were in your 20s, early 20s, yes?
Yes.
So you want the whole story, this is it. Please take a look. Don't forget, what I always say is suffering is optional. Life is what you make it. And I think you've really made it.
Well, thanks, Dr. Sippo.
Thank you so much. I'm here with Alison Arngrim, and she was quite the prolific sister in Little House on the Prairie.
Evil big sister. Yes.
Evil. And lots of other things. And we like to say that we are fellow Vikings. We like to be Vikings together.
Because my father's full name was Thorhudler Marvin Arngrimson. And Arngrim, the original Arngrim, if you go back a few thousand years in Iceland, was Arngrim the Berserker, a great warrior. So yes, actually my family technically invented going berserk. we wear it proudly, yes.
I love that. Well, you've also been all wholesome, and we're here today to talk about Prairie Man.
Friend Dean.
Your friend Dean.
And I love it. Do I love it just because my name's on the cover? No, I also love it. Yes, it does say with forewords by Melissa Gilbert and Alison Arngrim. I like it enough, I wrote the foreword. And that's the thing, is he called me up and said, okay, I've done the book, do you want to write the foreword? Of course I do. And he sent me chapters, and I'm like, I knew, he was sending me chapters early on, and I knew it was going to be good. Dean and I were on a plane, God, I'm trying to remember when it was, a few years ago, and he said, well, and everyone's been saying, write a book, write a book. I'm thinking of writing a book. And I was like, do it, do it. And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, it was that conversation when I basically insisted that he write a book. And I said, you're the first guy from the show. I mean, yes, Kent McCready, the producer, there was a book, but none of the actors. We've had all the actresses. I mean, I've written a book, Melissa Gilbert, Melissa Anderson, everybody, except Baby Carrie. Baby Carrie hasn't written a book yet. It should
Still
be called,
time.
It should be called Carrie Speaks, really. But Karen's written a book, Charlotte Stewart's written a book. I mean, everyone's written, except we've not heard from any of the men folk, and now Dean, of all people, has written this book. And it's great. It's absolutely great. And so I'm so happy to be part of it, forward with Melissa and everything.
Well, you know, well deserved. I mean, this show is prolific. 50-year
50
anniversary.
Years. I know. Can you believe it's 50 years?
And you're only like 29.
Yes, right. Yeah, I'm
How
like,
can it be?
What am I, 275 about now? 50 years. My God, I must be 100. It's like,
I'm-
it is. All of us from the show go 50 years. Oh my God, how old are we? Oh,
Yeah, and I'm only 39.95.
Yeah,
so
it must be it. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my God. I can't believe. But for us, I mean, we couldn't imagine that it would go 50 years because I mean, there was no cable TV, there were no DVDs. We couldn't figure out how someone would watch a show in 50 years, let alone why. So here we all are 50 years later, and they're watching it on their phones and practically having a chip implanted in their brain and watching Little House on their eyeballs. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers, and it's all over the world.
people are craving this stuff. They want
They
something
want
a
it.
little more wholesome again.
And
It's
frankly, the
snapped back.
pandemic, people said it was comfort television.
Yes.
And, you know,
Yes.
the Ingalls survived everything. You know, we had an episode called Plague and an episode called Quarantine. We were totally ahead of our time. And people just latch on to it. I mean, when you look at the fact that the books came out in the 1930s, the height of the Depression, and the series aired in 1974, right when the big recession was kicking in, it's like when things get rough, people watching Ingalls on the Prairie.
Right. Well, definitely worth watching. If you haven't watched it, I mean, there's plenty to watch. There's a lot out
It's,
there.
it's streaming. There's like a Roku channel that's just Little House on the Prairie, 24 hours a day. You can find it anywhere.
Well, please do. I absolutely hope so.
And we're so proud. We're just, all of us in the show, we're all so excited about Dean, and we're all just so proud. Finally, one of the men have stepped up and written a book, and it's our Prairie Man himself. So.
Okay,
You also
so-
read the books online. Had people tune in. So,
Well, that's right. During the height of the pandemic, I started reading the Little House books online because I had nowhere to go, and I realized everybody else was bored too. So I said, I need to go back and reread the Little House books. Hey, maybe I'll just read them on Facebook. And I went to Facebook Live and said, well,
Oh my
guys,
gosh.
I'm going to start book one, page one, chapter one, sentence one. There's Laura and Mary here in the big woods. And I started reading, and I said, this woman wrote 9 books, honey. We can be here, the whole year. And I read the Little House books. I read all the books about Little House, all the books about Laura. I read some of the Wizard of Oz, some of Anne of Green Gables, went back, read the entire series of Little House books again. This went on and on for about 2.5 years.
Wow. You can check that out too, I bet.
That's all on
You know
it.
what
And then
they
I-
say, social
yeah.
media is there forever.
Well, and
Don't
Dean and I
miss
have the
it.
podcast. You've seen our podcast.
Okay.
We have the 50th anniversary podcast. We're very proud. So.
All right, so definitely check out the podcast. I'll make sure you get all this information. Allison, always a joy to see you.
Good to see you.
All right.
I'm very excited about tonight.
Okay, we're all excited, and just thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.